Yeah, we're back for part 3 of the Alan Wake analysis, chapters 5 and 6. End of the game.
Chapter 5 and 6.
The clicker and... What was chapter 6?
Departure. The name of the book.
The name of the book.
It's
The
been
Long
a while.
Fall.
I'll give it to you. It's been a while.
Don't forget, I finished this within days of the last time that we talked, so...
That's why I said it's been a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, time of year, busy time of year, so it's been a while. I think for all of us, because I think we all finished it weeks ago now. In fact, I had been going through, because I played on the original and I don't have the DLC on the Xbox 360, I had been playing through the remaster, assuming that I needed to do so to gain access to the special
I don't think you do.
I don't.
You just go under episodes. I couldn't figure it out
halfway
myself.
through the game.
They just dump that stuff under episode select, and because no other game does that, you just think that's where you go to replay stuff you haven't done before. Nah, let's throw the DLC in there, not tell anybody. Thanks.
Yeah. So I was about halfway through the replay on the remaster when I found that out. I was like, oh.
And you couldn't even play it through on Nightmare mode.
And I couldn't even play through on... I know.
What a bummer.
Waste of time.
We need to sign a waiver. Just have us say, if we suck on Nightmare mode, it's our fault and not yours. And there's a nice big fat checkbox that says, I know what I must do.
It was funny. There was sort of a different game, right? But in the second Insomnium files, remember that gives you like the quiz at the beginning of the game to like prove that you
prove that you know what you're doing.
And some of the questions, yeah, because it was like a direct continuation from a previous story, and it turns out some of the major plot lines and twists late in the game would be evident early on from the second game. So they like ask you a bunch of questions to figure out if you've actually played the game. And it's like, unless you played it yesterday, you would remember some of the things.
It's all like, specific people's names.
It was names of people. Yep.
I'm just like, I don't remember anybody's last name. I don't remember their first name. It's been a hot minute. I just looked that bitch up. I'm just like, don't judge me.
But it's like, who shot this person? And I'm thinking to myself, I don't remember that person getting shot ever.
If at first you don't succeed, it's all Kaname Date. Except the problem is, who is Kaname Date at the point?
All road leads to the. I have strong opinions about Nirvana Initiative and what they did to that character, but that's not what we're here for.
Yes, we're here for something completely different.
Don't worry, they're going to redeem him in 2 days.
I'm afraid they're just gonna keep making him worse until I hate him.
I don't think so.
Well, 2 days? I gotta put this on my wish list.
2 days.
Isn't it like a Gaiden or something?
It wasn't made by Ukiyoshi.
No sleep for Konami.
Oh.
He oversaw it. He didn't write it.
Interesting.
He was a little busy.
Oh, good. It is on my wish list. Thank God.
With 100 different paths. Or 98 different paths. And
I'm about to learn about...
covered most of the other ones.
Anyway. Alan Wake. The writer. Who obtains
something happened in episode 5.
Something happened. Yeah, so it starts out with you in jail. So you wake up from the drinking escapade at the Andersons farm, and after you had the dream, so I'm just trying to go back and remember. After you had the dream where you kind of like learned what happened or remembered what happened to you,
Nightingale shows up and arrests
you. And then the chapter starts out with the you in the cell, and then you get like the headache thing, and Nightingale thinks it's you, Alan. It's funny, video games are such an interesting medium, right? Like the player character, even when they're a named, unique person and personality like Alan Wake,
it's still you.
You inherent, because you're controlling, you inherently say we.
You associate yourself with it.
Yes.
What is also interesting is when, so you'll be playing a game, it's like, oh, I did this cool thing, I threw a flashbang, and I prime dodged everything. But then if there's something that disassociates you with it, it's just like, oh, you keep getting stuck in reload animations. It's like it's no longer you because you've been pulled out of it.
Yeah,
if you think about like if something happens and the game prevents you from doing it, it's no longer you. It's the game wouldn't let me do this. But then if something cool happens, you're like, oh, I did this cool thing in the game.
Yeah, that's like the whole immersion and flow state discussion. But yeah, so Nightingale, Alan gets a headache. Sheriff opens the door, and then Nightingale, he's like, wait a minute, I read this. So what I struggle to, I'll say, discern from that scene is, so he recognized, even though he like went into the encounter expecting something, he still like recognized it too late, so to speak.
That's how it was written.
That's exactly what I was about to say. That's how it was written, and how.
Yeah, remember that in order to make this a dramatic story, there need to be twists and turns. Alan had to get caught, and then Alan had to be narrowly able to escape, or else it wouldn't be compelling. So there are a few moments like that. Like there's more than once. Like there will be a train or a boat that lands like 5 feet away from the character. And it's part of the set piece in the game. But keep in mind that like if you were reading the manuscript, it would be like, and then a boat nearly killed me.
But a boat did land on me though.
Not that boat, the other boat.
You were desynchronized from the story.
Yes.
Yeah,
to use an Assassin's Creed term.
Never played that series. Also a different topic.
Well, so, it's kind of similar because Assassin's Creed, you're reliving the memories, the ancestral memories of people in your lineage. And if you don't do the right thing or if something goes wrong, that's what they claim happens. You're desynchronized from the memories.
Yep.
Which would be similar to something going wrong in Alan Wake where the story is written and they're supposed to follow it. They can't not follow it. That's how he wrote it.
So the compelling aside, because I think that's going to be one of those... I feel like there's a chicken and egg ambiguity in this game.
Not particularly, but we'll get there.
You're talking Thomas and Alan?
Yes.
When you say not particularly, okay, yeah, okay. Let's not skip that yet. So on the Nightingale thing, before we wrap that up, I guess the question I have is, what was his motive? Like, why was he in town? Or is that just another? It was written that way.
Yeah,
it was written that way.
Yeah.
Like, what did he think his motive was?
It seems that he was drawn to this town with a troubled past,
like Silent Hill.
And so it is implied that he was already somehow impacted by these manuscripts or is haunted by them.
Yeah, his partner had died, and he had read in a manuscript that his partner had died. So that's how he started putting 2 and 2 together.
Is that in a manuscript?
I think so. That? I can't remember how I have this knowledge, but I have this knowledge.
Yep.
You're lucky I remember this.
I don't remember that knowledge, so I'm wondering where you got that knowledge.
I don't remember.
Interesting. But so
I don't. Yeah, I don't recall a partner either. Was it during like the first FBI like encounter where
it would have had to? It would have had to be something that would have been in a manuscript or in some other form of errata. Something else. It wouldn't have been something that would have happened right in your face in the story. Because it wouldn't have had a place.
So the other thing is for him to be influenced by the page or by the manuscript. Is it only things that are influenced by the darkness? Or is there something about the town that compels everything to...
It is there is a question of reach, and Silent Hill also has a similar question, which is how far away from Silent Hill until you're no longer affected by it?
Until you're no longer in Silent Hill.
Yes. And there, Homecoming gets into this a little bit, that there's some bleed over.
Into the surrounding communities.
Yes. And then in Silent Hill 3, Heather's out of range, so Claudia has to go get her. I would extrapolate from this that Bright Falls and, well, more specifically, Cavern Lake also has a finite range. And so
I don't know though.
I don't want to skip ahead, but I don't agree truly.
Because yeah.
Now the caveat is, and this is similar with Claudia Wolf, things can leave and come in, and that power stays with the people that come and go.
If Alan Wake didn't grow up anywhere near this place, his youth was influenced by pages that were written ostensibly by Thomas Zane.
I suspect that was my theory. We can talk about this. My theory is that he worked backwards instead of forwards, and that Alan Wake was normal until he entered Bright Falls, and then everything happened from that point.
So
I don't know. The clicker existed in his youth.
He borrowed
Did it ever really exist?
idea. Whether or not it's real doesn't matter prior. You suspect that he may have made it up, but then he just took that idea, like he took everything else, and he crafted the narrative of the story in the game we're playing. This is in the point of speculation, and to the opening lines of this game, they're never going to explain it because that's not the point. But there's lots of conjecture so that we can get a pretty good idea of what's going on.
So what's interesting? Oh, go ahead.
My only question about that is there was a flashback to when they were in the apartment in New York City, where he was talking about in Act 3. I assume that's what that meant for.
No, it's three years ago. I think it was the beginning of Act 2.
So the clicker was already established before they went to the lake. Unless and that supports Flame, that flashback was part of the story to explain the clicker, and then from there have Alan write Tom as he provides him with the clicker.
The flashback is to establish where the idea of the clicker came from. It also establishes that the wife is not a fabrication, which are two important plot points.
But I guess to me, it's not 100% clear, though, that that's an authentic memory. Right? Like, when they have the discussion, so I'm going to the clicker discussion now. I thought, and this is going ways back now, so I could be off base, but I thought I remember him saying, something along the lines of, because it's this story.
Oh, tell me a story. It could be a fake story.
I don't know why I remember it. I thought he said something like that.
My mom gave me this old light switch. She called it the clicker.
The clicker, huh?
Yeah. If I ever got scared of the dark, I could just flip the switch and a magic light would scare the monsters away.
Oh, sure.
There it is.
Well, whatever it is, it's just a MacGuffin.
Yeah, nice story, writer boy. You made that up right now, didn't you?
No. Seriously.
I love you, even if you are a liar. Thanks for this.
Interesting. Okay, I guess I don't remember. I don't remember it right. I thought he said something like, I don't really remember why, or I'm not really sure. There was something in it that put doubt. I'm making it up.
Well, I mean, the doubt's right there. She called him a liar.
These are ideas that he then borrows for the manuscript.
See, right. The problem is that we don't have a definitive way to know whether or not Thomas Zane was a legitimate person or a creation. But if Thomas Zane is a legitimate person and basically wrote himself out of existence, with the exception of what was left in that box.
Sorry. Something towards that end, Alan Wake mentions that he found something of Thomas's in a shoebox. It was the poems. I'm going to borrow this.
Correct. However, now, unfortunately, I have a minor recollection of when you played Control. There was another person who remembered Thomas Zane, and only because of something that she had in a shoebox, and that was Jesse Fadden from Control. For what
Did you find something? Did you find something in a shoebox from him?
No, she was the only person who remembered his poems. She remembered him as a poet. Ah, man, it's a Control thing.
Yeah. Well, if it's Jesse Fadden, then that makes a lot of sense because she has her own thing going.
Correct, but yes, but yeah. I think Thomas Zane's a person, is what I'm trying to say, and not just a fabrication.
No, Thomas Zane was real, and then he was, and then he removed himself.
Yeah, I guess I was to me what I was going to say. The ambiguity to me is Alan a real person, or did he get written by Thomas Zane?
Alan is a real person.
They're all real people.
Yeah, they're all real people. That's not
what's real.
Well, but like the memory of the clicker and stuff. I don't know. For somehow I got this idea that it's actually kind of the flip in that there was at times like Alan always says, "Oh, I wrote Thomas Zane. I wrote Thomas Zane. I wrote Thomas Zane."
Yeah,
but when you talk to Cynthia and you're kind of walking in underneath the tunnel or whatever, there was some talk about him being in the same situation as Alan,
yeah, pretty much,
kind of like writing himself, out of things. So it seems perfect. And she even said, "I've been waiting for you." Why would she be waiting for this fabled successor unless Thomas wrote about them? I think that's where I got the idea. Now that I'm talking,
Thomas built a failsafe in because he was not able to fully kill the darkness. So what he did is break glass in case of emergency, and then he tasked her with protecting it basically as her life's work. He's kind of a dick like that.
Anything that's kept in this shoebox will exist after I write myself out of existence, basically. And the thing that was in the shoebox was a couple of manuscript pages, and that was written by him, not by Alan, and the clicker. But that's the end of this chapter.
I have a feeling that this mystery that we were talking about
is solved.
Gets expanded upon.
Yeah.
It gets expanded upon in content that we have not yet seen. For example, maybe DLC.
There's that too. You know what it wasn't expanded upon?
One of them is called
American Nightmare.
I did pick that up. Xbox Store had it on sale for like $3, so I picked it up. I haven't played it.
It's good.
I played it.
You played it if you don't feel like playing it.
You can watch my playthrough if you want to. It's good.
I need to play it myself. I tried to watch you and then came back to it and tried to watch it again. I'm like, the loops upon loops of it.
It's fun. It's a fun story.
It's a time loop story, Adam.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
It's well done. It's compelling. You don't need to know everything about Alan Wake, but I have a feeling that you're going to be very confused if you try to go into that without it.
Yeah.
It ties up a couple of plot threads from the end of this game in particular.
So after you escape, Alan escapes.
Maybe you.
See, I did it again. You basically, my recollection is you follow the sheriff across town. I don't think there was any real kind of story development aside from maybe some like Barry character development. Is this when he puts on the Christmas tree lights?
Barry puts on the lights and the Eye of Sauron.
Barry was already a great character. When he shows up with that Christmas tree light outfit, I'm like top 10 characters in video games. I will not hear arguments.
Did you guys almost get run over by the reindeer truck also?
I did not.
The reindeer truck.
I chased it down.
I did too.
I was very slow in my approach. That happens like right after you get out, right?
After you do this one, yeah. And you go to the main street.
Must be after this fight.
Yep, after this. It's...
I'll let the sheriff do all the work for me.
Dude, actually, it's annoying. Sometimes
Here it comes.
you can't... Yeah, see,
Oh, wow, I didn't even...
You can miss entirely.
I didn't even remember... I don't even remember seeing...
There's lots of set pieces in this game that I feel like you can miss entirely.
Oh, Omega-3 assets! It's the Omega-3 assets guy!
Where? Him? I was going too fast. I thought Omega-3 assets guy was Stucky. Carl Stucky.
No, there's a dude here. He's on the stage, so after the first wave spawns.
In this area?
Of this game.
This is the holdout at the church.
Yeah, this is the church. Is it after the church?
Yeah, no, it's here. It's this fight.
Yep, it's the second wave.
So, I mean, aside from waiting to see if that shows up, because I may already be past the second wave on this one. Otherwise, and then there's the chopper. Get to the chopper. There's the get to the chopper scene.
Get to the chopper.
And then fight
And
off
the hold off
chopper.
there, yeah.
Yeah.
Thankfully, there's convenient lights right there to help you defend. Made it a lot easier.
So it's funny. There's an achievement on this for. Okay, I went too far into the fight already. So there's an achievement for doing this part of the level without restarting. Did anyone get that?
I did, yes.
So I didn't because the birds right at the beginning killed me.
On the
There's
roof, those damn birds.
I was running around the docks for a long time, and I was just like, I wonder if you could jump in the water. The answer is yes. The answer is it kills you.
Yeah, so I ended up not getting it because the birds killed me right at the beginning. So
I do kind of a lot of pissing about in this game, running around. I'm like, I wonder what I can get away with, and then get punished for my insolence.
it's funny though because there are sort of, I won't call them invisible walls, but there's like invisible half walls that like kind of discourage you from just like blatantly running off a cliff. So anyway, I don't think there was much else from this. And then the whole purpose of the chopper is to get Alan over to Bright Falls Light and Power, so he can meet up with Cynthia Weaver.
You fall out of the chopper. They stay in the chopper. The chopper goes down.
So I guess maybe the other interesting thing is, and you start to hear it during the chopper ride, but the sheriff is very sympathetic towards Alan, and it seems like there's memories of her father baked into that. There's
that whole there it is. Omega-3 fatty acids are good for your heart.
Yes.
There.
Omega-3 fatty acids are good for your heart.
Thank you, Adam.
I need to get that sound clip and make that alert. That's so good.
If you choose to stay behind in the police station at the very beginning, Barry is making phone calls to a lot of people.
Yes,
including her father.
Get you there pretty quickly. In the
Let me see.
Okay.
I stuck around till he just started repeating himself.
So there is actually something. Hang on, I gotta find it. I realize I have screenshots.
Her father was a badass in his own right. Apparently there's a lot of weird stuff that goes on around here, and that's why they call this place... I mean, that's why they refer to this place as Night Springs.
Well, because, during this chase sequence, he actually asks her, he's like, what's up with the... I think these are the birds that killed me. In fact, that might be birds. Where I died. Yeah, that's where I died. Like, look at that!
Wow, that was instant.
Look at my health. So health's good, right?
Taken down to half.
Taken down to half, and then
taken down to nothing. You zeroed.
You had 2 squad of birds hitting you at the same exact time. That's pretty bad.
So right after that, This is her.
Original inspiration we have.
Hey, Sheriff, your password. Night Springs? What's that all about?
It's a stupid joke we have. That Bright Falls is the original inspiration for the TV show. This town can get weird at times. Never this weird, though. Need to bypass the damage to the hold off.
And he gets zapped. So then you got the hold off. Gotta move on.
Oh, sorry. My screenshots aren't actually that interesting, but what I did able to find out is the time of year. This game happens in mid-September.
Yeah.
Mid-September.
The church event schedule says that Deerfest Candle Night is September 14th.
That's what it was.
Interesting. I'll have to tell that one to Maria. That's right.
Yeah.
That's right around her birthday, so she'll get a kick out of that.
Yeah, which is also
well, it makes sense too with Deerfest. It's that time of year.
Deerfest is that time of year.
Actually, is it in October here? I think it's later. Like once the fall sets in. Sorry. Since we're all in the same state of the union.
Taking a big chance on a local crazy
lady. Barry.
That's fair.
I guess
really
Barry
funny.
Go ahead.
Sorry. What's really funny about even the helicopter crashing is that Alan's giving them plot armor to keep them alive. It was like the biggest
in the story
joke I had. Yeah, in the story, because he was purposely trying to keep them alive by giving them plot armor throughout the whole entire time.
There's a long sequence of will he, won't he, specifically for Barry.
And Barry just keeps living.
He just keeps living. He's into and out of trouble a half dozen times.
The knife falls on Barry's.
The other interesting thing about Barry, like as a generalization, right? Like he's very closely tied to the part of Alan that Alan doesn't like about himself, right? Like he says a couple times, like how he doesn't really like whether it's the fame or himself in the role of fame, right? I guess there's some ambiguity there, right? But like he has made it clear, Alan has made it clear that he's not a huge fan of even himself, right?
The public persona.
Yes, the public persona. That's a good way to say it. So it's interesting because Barry is he's the constant reminder of that, right? Like in the way the story is structured, like he's his agent. He's all about making money. So he's all about that particular aspect of Alan, right? Not the whole person. It's specifically Alan, the writer who makes money, right? And so it's interesting because in some ways he kind of keeps that around all the time. In fact, there's the whole gag in chapter 4 where he's like bringing the cutout everywhere, the cardboard cutout, right? Which is that, right?
Yeah,
it's him
absolutely.
with the book. It's him with the Alex Casey book.
Just so you know,
the book where he killed off Alex Casey.
The fall of Alex Casey.
Yeah.
Just like the fall of Max Payne. Yeah. Just so you know, the bad side of Alan wouldn't get along with Barry either, so.
No. That's not what I was.
No. I know what you're saying.
Getting along or not getting along. I'm saying
you get real caught up over it.
Right, like Alan came on this vacation because he wanted to get away from the fame, the writing, and everything else, and then he goes out for a week, and then the fame comes to him, right? Like
and Barry follows.
Personification, right? Barry follows the personification of the fame. He can't get away from it. He can't get rid of it. So, anyway, so that's chapter 5, part 1.
Chapter 5, part 2, fighting through the woods.
Yeah.
Did anyone else have problem in the forest like I did and ran out of ammo?
I did not have ammo problems.
I did not either.
I had a horrendous problem with ammo, especially getting to the power plant and activating the dam portion of it. I just could not find ammo drops at all, and there was endless enemies coming after me, and I ran out of ammo, and I was getting real tight. Like I escaped a couple enemies, but I ran out of ammo so much during this. I'm like, I don't understand how my ammo got blown away.
Yeah, no, because at some points you get like coverage from the. Well, I guess it's just light coverage from the helicopter, right? Like
Not enough. My number one problem point in this chapter was when they throw you down to the ground and you turn on the radio and hear the Poets of the Fall song playing, and then have all of those guys coming at you. I think I had to redo that fight for like 5.
That was a tough fight, yeah.
I died
5-10 minutes. Yeah. And then, of course, at the very end of the chapter, I had problems when my PS5 just stopped responding, and I had to pull the power cord out of it.
It hard crashed.
Oh yeah. After I fell through a grate in the escape at the very end.
Oh, so
the tornado chase thing, yeah.
The tornado chase, yeah.
Yeah, so that's in some ways that's like the Darkness's last stand, right? Like it does
won.
not want Alex. Well, it does not want. Yeah, for you it did.
I had to pull the plug out of the PS5. It won.
Right. It did not want. I think the manuscripts even talk about like how Alan had gone out of control, like from the Dark Presence's perspective.
Yeah, chapter 6, I think there's a document that basically says Alan Wake is too powerful and outside of their control, so they just wanted to we just got to get rid of him now.
Yep, right. It's time for him to die. He is so out of control, and yeah, before he reaches the lake, he needs to die. Yeah.
So I guess an interesting question there is why, right? Like what is unique about Alan? I mean, like the Dark Presence appreciates it at one point. I mean, is it because he wrote it that way? Right, like that's why I feel like the whole like everything that's written happens starts to become a little bit of like a chicken and egg mind bend, because it's like, is the only reason Alan was powerful, resourceful, whatever enough to survive this is because he wrote himself to survive?
Wrote himself to survive. Yeah, that was the entire gambit, is that he realized that he was losing control of the story and that it was going to consume him and all the powers, and his gambit was to write himself into it and give him the power to fight back.
Yes.
Yep. You gave the Darkness a little bit of what they wanted, but then he gave himself an escape and ability to fight back with Thomas Zane.
Yeah. I mean, that was the Dark Presence's. That's what they wanted. They wanted to be made stronger through the story that he wrote, and he made that happen. The problem is he also wrote himself in as a foil, and they didn't know the end of the story, and because the end of the story wasn't written yet until he wrote the end at the very end.
See, it's almost like that's the drama, right? Like the drama of the game is not how to get there; it's what's the ending going to be, because it's the only thing he hasn't written yet.
For us, the drama is how to get there, because we're playing through how to get there. But
right.
For him, if he knew what the story was the whole time, which he didn't remember what the story was, so he didn't really know either. Right. But I guess from the Dark Presence's perspective, they knew everything up to the end. For what that's worth.
So there was I guess, are there any conversations in chapter 5 that are worth bringing up? Like, so there was this one, we already alluded to it, where you kind of find out that maybe part of the reason she has the soft spot is because her and her dad bonded over the Alex Casey books, right? So she's kind of predisposed to be sympathetic to him.
Another fan of Alan Wake. Who isn't?
Another fan of Alan Wake. But a lot less overbearing, right? Like,
not everybody can be Rose.
Right, her and Rose are kind of like two interesting
mirrors, warped mirrors.
Well, I mean,
funhouse mirrors.
They're interesting to look at next to each other because One is like the overbearing, oh my goodness, it's Alan Wake, right? You know, and
which is the majority of the fans that he encounters, it seems,
right?
Because that's what he doesn't like.
In her case, she's got a soft spot for him, and it's only until they start like working together in this chapter that she starts to, you know, let some of that stuff slip, and not even slip, like to like confide in him or open up to him or whatever, right? So
it also explains why she didn't really, you know, bring the gavel down on him earlier.
It does, but I think it's also interesting in that, like, if you just think about it from like a personality dynamics, like if you have Alan who doesn't like the fame and doesn't like himself in the role of the famous person, then you can see where this type of approach is a much better approach. You know, to not lead with the person as a person instead of objectifying them, right? Like in the case of Rose, she's objectified Alan, like, oh my goodness, it's this famous author. It's not Alan the person, it's Alan the author, right? It's like objectified.
The cardboard cutout.
And also
the cardboard cutout.
And also called him out during the radio station also, where the radio guy's like, hey, I met across someone famous coming to town this week. And then Rose just calls in and says, oh yeah, it's Alan Wake. Oh my God, he's here.
Right, so the only person in the town who, you know, he ends up working with, I mean, some of it's as a sheriff, she has certain skills and opportunity, but I think another is she's the one who treated him as a person first, as opposed to the caricature of the person, of the people in Bright Falls. That's all I got on that.
If you were to skip to anything, there would be the stuff that Cynthia winds up saying.
Yes, that's
around
that's
the times that you meet her.
How do you guys do with the puzzle?
It was a puzzle.
Hold random levers until it worked.
Oh,
what's funny about that is, so if you were to watch my video, you would be like, dude was looking at a guide. I was just like flicking levers to see like what did what, and after like 3 levers, it's like puzzle solves. I'm like, what? Like, what was that?
Like, during my stream, I said always go with 3, 3, 2, 1. And I did that, and it worked because I went Zelda puzzle solving.
There is a similar puzzle in American Nightmare, which amounts to 3 levers or 3 things that you flick, and I flicked them, and it was just solved, and I'm like, wow, this is ridiculous. And this is what I remember. It's what I remember from this puzzle too. It was not a difficult puzzle.
2, 3, 1. Yeah.
Oh, you're at the end of episode 5. It's got to be before that.
Yeah,
like on the walk down with her, and when you first meet her.
Oh yes, when you first meet her. That's right. So I'm way far ahead.
Yeah, you're around it now.
Yes.
Oh, that's after the puzzle.
Yeah. So
like, why are they giving me all this ammo? That's not what Snooty was saying.
No, there was no ammo. It's all flares.
This is right after the puzzle. There's the puzzle.
Yeah, like I'll let it play while we keep talking, but like I was just flicking levers to see like what did what, and then it was like solved. I'm like, oh, okay. Clearly there wasn't enough potential options to make this a difficult puzzle because I just like randomly lucked into the solution.
A combination of 3 is not a very difficult combination. You can go through every permutation of that pretty quickly. Right.
So here I am. I'm like, okay, there's 3 of them. Haven't done anything yet. Then I'm like,
figure out the gates.
Okay, let's see.
Okay, now they're both gone.
Okay. Yeah, I'm like, okay, I don't know what. I'm
2,
just
3,
clicking
1.
stuff.
There it is. Solved.
That's what I'm saying. You would look at it and be like, dude, use the guide. I was like, what? I'm like, was this a puzzle? What was this? That's just dumb luck. So was there anything in the initial conversation with Cynthia?
She was talking a lot about Thomas Zane, about how he's like, she was still like smitten by him.
Well, I think that's later, right? When you first show
The
up,
walk
she's
down.
like, I've been waiting for you for a while, and you find out about her neuroticism about changing all the lights, but then you got to go down to the transformer yard.
Bulb number 36 needs to be changed.
She tells you that she's the one who left all the chests. And then you go do the puzzle, come back. So this is the conversation about
the
Zane.
walk down.
Yeah. Right, and that's where you find out about like the love triangle and stuff. But like, again, what struck out more than anything for me in this whole discussion was the fact that she, or maybe this is when you first arrived, she's like, I've been waiting for you for a long time. That's sort of what made me wonder. I'm like, did Zane write
that
Alan,
would be when you first
Zane?
arrived.
Okay. Oh, and then there's this. I totally thought of like FMA, human transmutation.
Yeah.
Equivalent exchange. Like, oh, you tried bringing someone back to life? They're going to be homunculus.
Right.
As a very
the
brief
monkey's
aside,
paw curls.
I still think the original FMA was better than Brotherhood in terms of how
it was.
handled that. In terms of how it handled that. It was just, anyway, rabbit hole that we don't need to go down. Yeah, so this is just Zane and the love triangle. So
he left one thing behind in my care in case it happened again. Insurance. Yeah, you thought you could get out there too, didn't you? Well, it's the box.
Which has the clicker in it.
And pages.
So where did Alan get the idea of Thomas Zane?
There was Thomas Zane's stuff was in a shoebox in the cabin. One of the TV things that you see insane real life actor Alan Wake involves him finding some of that stuff. He had mentioned that like trying to read or do anything outside of being the typewriter was a big strain, but he found this stuff and he read through it and he's just like, oh, his poems have some good ideas. I'm going to use them for the story.
Right. He says here, he saved us both with light. So that's implying to me that this is Zane's story, right?
Alan Wake borrowing Zane's ideas for his own story.
Yes.
I'm on the
from below. We've both been lucky.
How do you know all this?
Tom, that's the way he wrote it.
Right? So doesn't
yes.
that imply that
yes.
all of this is Tom's story? So that's where I get to like there's this weird chicken and egg thing.
It implies that when people write, when creatives create around Cauldron Lake, they can influence reality. That's what it implies. That does not mean that Thomas Zane did not do that. That does not mean that Alan Wake did not do that. So it might not be a chicken and the egg situation. It might be everything influencing itself. But if Thomas Zane is the person who set Alan Wake's course into motion, then yes, you could say he is the chicken before the egg.
Right.
But if Thomas Zane wrote that things inside of boxes, shoeboxes, could maintain some kind of cohesion of parts of him and knowledge of him, because John mentions this, in the cabin there was a shoebox full of his stuff, just like the shoebox full of his stuff here. It's an interesting parallel.
Right, but he left the box specifically for Alan.
He left it for someone.
He left it.
He left it. Again, this was a fail-safe mechanism. Now, part of the chicken and egg is whether Thomas Zane left it specifically for Alan Wake or whether Thomas Zane said, if this shit happens again, here is how you fix it.
If we go to the back part of the chapter, the actual words of that Thomas Zane wrote on that paper should clarify that.
But the darkness is... The island itself is darkness. Sorry to interrupt. But the island itself is a manifestation of the darkness. It naturally doesn't exist. It wasn't there. So I think the shoebox in the cabin in the island was
the island did exist.
Under the water.
Thomas Zane wrote that island to be dragged under the water. Or Alan Wake wrote that. Or Alan Wake wrote that island.
Yeah,
wrote that Thomas Zane wrote that island to be dragged.
Oh god.
Yes.
Anyways.
Yeah.
The island did exist.
The island did exist, and it was
prior to 1970.
Yeah. So if Thomas, here's the chicken and egg. If Thomas Zane in the poems that Alan Wake wrote mentioned that he did this, then it was Thomas Zane that did it.
Yep.
We as the viewers never actually read Thomas Zane's stuff.
Except for at the very end of this chapter.
Boxes.
I posit that everything written here is written by Alan Wake. That is my theory going into this.
I agree.
Well, she says it right here. Where characters trapped in a story you have written. Right. And she's acknowledging that the dark...
Well, you can be characters in a story that he has written, but that doesn't mean that he wrote everything that ever happened.
Right, but what she just said to him was, hey...
Right now is the story.
We are trapped in your story. How do you know we're trapped in your story? Because Tom wrote it that way. So that implies to me that this is all the creation of Thomas Zane. The whole situation is the creation of Thomas Zane.
That's
what Cynthia is implying. Whether Cynthia is right or not is a different question.
But
there's no definitive answer to this question. I am basing all of this off of the fact that this boils down to a manuscript that Alan Wake wrote, and everything in the story is part of that manuscript. Therefore, Alan Wake has made it all up.
Part of these, well, that being said, it's part of these couple of days in September then.
That 1 week.
That's what
September.
I'm saying.
Yep.
But that doesn't.
Now the thing is that.
And then what about?
Yeah.
What about Thor and Odin and their history, and their ability to conjure darkness? Yes. I mean, what I'm saying is, Alan didn't write all of that.
And the fact that they call him Tom, like they call Alan
that
Tom.
too.
They do have him confused. So there's two parts to this, which is why my theory is not solid. One, what we were talking about before is sort of the power of Cauldron Lake influencing people before, and there's also a cyclical nature to this. When we get to the very end, we're showing that the cycle of keeping the light, the Lady of the Light, that is a cycle that is now beginning again into the future beyond us. So part of me almost wonders if we were to go back, did Cynthia inherit this from someone else herself? In which case, then,
Tom,
go back to American Nightmare. Everything's a time loop, and it's being inherited down in this pattern that everybody's entrapped in. In which case, then, it's not Thomas Zane, it's not Alan Wake, it goes into this pattern.
Eternal.
It's eternal. In that case, then there is no beginning and there is no end.
It's shades of eternal recurrence with different people.
It's not a lake; it's an ocean.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean,
I thought that's subconsciousness, right? Is that wasn't that talking about a person's subconscious?
We'll be getting there later.
Yeah. That to me meant something specific.
Yeah.
Okay. So.
It
and
is.
Then
wait.
The other interest.
The other page, if you will, at the end of chapter 5. Keep going.
What page?
There is I'm going
Keep backwards.
Going forwards. Why are you going backwards? Oh, you're going to the place where I died.
You mean where
right here,
where we all died? Yeah.
Well, I died and then I had to pull the plug on my PlayStation.
I think I did fall through the grates. What had happened is there was some sequence where I was like half on, half off. And in the back of my mind, I'm like, oh, it's just a set piece. You can just run forward. You don't actually care about the gaps. And I ran right into a gap.
Platforming is not a strong suit of this game.
And I was like, okay, I'll pay attention now. But it didn't crash for me, thankfully.
Yeah, 633 and 118 need changing soon. All right, play.
changing soon, and I don't want to climb up the ladder to change them because
I
it's
love
very
that.
late, and I'm tired. And if you take it, I won't have to do that anymore.
So you're saying on this page,
The page
That poor
was
woman.
autobiographical, a memory from my childhood.
that's yet another implication
But I
that
didn't write
Thomas
this.
wrote.
It's
But
well,
I didn't
keep
write
going.
this. It was a page written by Thomas Zane. None of them were supposed to exist anymore.
Alan, 7 years old, would fight sleep to the bitter end. When he did sleep, he soon woke up, screaming, the nightmares fresh in his mind. One evening, his mother, sitting by his bed, offered him an old light switch. She called it the clicker, and flicking the switch would turn on a magical light that would drive the beast away. To imbue the talisman with all possible power, she added that it had been given to her by Alan's father. Alan never knew him, and anything of his took on mythical proportions in his mind.
You never knew him because he's not a real person.
With the clicker firmly in his hand,
Or
slept like a baby. Now, almost 30 years later, Alan thought of this as he stood on the rim of Cauldron Lake, the clicker in his hand. He took a deep breath and jumped.
My mind swirled. I'd given the clicker to Alice, yet it was here. Zane had written it into existence in a story I had written.
There you go.
See,
So here, in the flashback, they never mention his father. Here, they said, "Oh yeah, this is a vivid memory about Alan's father that gave him the clicker." No, in the flashback there was no clicker. I mean, no
this
father.
said that Alan
to give it power.
Yeah, exactly.
But this is also the scene where I'm saying, okay, Thomas Zane doesn't exist. This is all just Alan's creation, because of the fact that sentence right there saying, "This is my story that Zane then wrote to give me the MacGuffin that I need to answer the darkness."
It's
I think the both of
mind-bending
us
recursion.
on the left-hand side don't agree.
Fine, I'll stick with the crow that killed you guys then. Fine.
It's recursion, right?
Yep.
When you start to get these loops, where it starts and where it ends is an impossible question to answer because it's a loop
And irrelevant.
In the loop theory, this is sort of pulling off. Things are sort of coming off the rails here, and you can see that there's just the nature of the power means that there's no beginning and there's no end. The literal interpretation is that Alan Wake exploited Thomas Zane's failsafe mechanism to write the clicker in.
Yes,
Yes. And in that case, then what basically Thomas Zane created a box and did not detail what was in the box, merely that it was something of his that would be there, and it would be something of his that would be granting power. That is the literal interpretation of the game, not the cyclical interpretation.
So you're saying it's a Schrodinger's cat where Alan became aware of a box that could contain anything. So Alan wrote the contents of the box into his story.
Yes.
Yes.
And it wasn't until it was open that it manifested a la Schrodinger's cat.
Correct.
And then from there, he gave the clicker the ultimate power to stop all darkness.
The power of creation allows you to create whatever you can conceive of. So even if Thomas Zane didn't think of this, Alan could have.
Yes. This is
But
all
and it doesn't really matter who thought of it, because somebody did, because it's in that box.
Correct.
And it's clearly impossible from the information we have here to know whether
it was one or the other.
Tom was first or Alan was first.
Tom was first. Did Tom do everything? Did cause all of the events in this game? I don't know. Because clearly Alan caused the events in this game to happen. To some degree.
Right,
if not
now
all.
But once he gets the clicker, he now has the confidence of a child to say, "Hey, I can
do this.
I can do this now." This is war, right?
That's that song that played while I got murdered for 15 minutes.
Yes.
Poets of the Fall.
Chapter 6.
Previously
I did something.
It was pretty much a
weird with
gauntlet.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it was. I think Pete, you were the one who said Chapter 6 is execution on everything that we know.
Exactly. Yep. Yeah, it was a slugfest of just endless enemies and everything. And so when you told us that the achievement for this chapter is don't fire a single shot, I'm like, that's impossible.
But it's not, because
if you just keep running.
Somehow at this point I have 10 flashbangs.
Oh, so flashbangs are fun.
They throw stuff at you like it's going out of style. I struggled to keep up with the volume of stuff they were giving me.
No shots. That doesn't mean that you can't use flashbangs. It doesn't mean that you can't do other things.
Correct. So as you can see here, I'm not shooting, but there's another flashbang. Oh, okay, I have.
This wasn't the chapter where you run into the motel, is it?
It is.
Yes,
the beginning.
Oh, it is. Okay, so this is also where you run into Nightingale's.
I missed this stuff. I
have a picture.
Okay, yeah. Because there was some illusion that he stayed there, so I'm like, oh, I must be able to get in. But then when I went in, I couldn't find his room, so I was like, okay.
It was the room with
odd.
Stuff strewn everywhere? Because he was a psycho.
Also alcohol, yeah. It was pretty bad. And then on his desk, there was a book about writer's block.
It was the doctor's book.
The doctor's book.
Okay.
Emil Hartman.
Yep.
So, by the way, Hartman gets dragged away. You never see him again. Nightingale gets dragged away. You never see him again. They don't show up
him again.
When do you see
him? Very end.
He's typing on the typewriter.
Oh, all right. What I mean is you don't see him again in terms of an enemy. He's not like one of the Taken.
Oh yeah.
Taking Bill in the morning.
That was disappointing to me. I wanted them to be taken so I could deal with them.
It seems like they are taking them also to the darkness, taking them to like utilize them for like their own story. So it'll be really interesting to see what the sequel provides now.
Hard drive. 6.3 gigabytes free.
Yeah, I suspect that Nightingale and Emil Hartman are too important narratively.
Hartman does get used in Control.
Oh, really?
Oh, is that the dude we fought in Control?
That's the dude you fight in Control. It's fucking Hartman.
Oh, yeah. The name meant nothing to me when I was
playing
now
Control.
It does. Okay. Well, there it is. That's why. That's why he wasn't. So there's DLC in Control, and the DLC involves Alan Wake, and I played through Control barely knowing anything about Remedy, let alone about Alan Wake. And I just ran through the whole DLC. I'm just like, this is a weird trip. And then I realized that, yeah. And so there was a bad guy that you were in contest with whose name and purpose I forgot, because it was like, I guess we got to fight somebody, because there's always a bad guy. Oh, question. Did anybody go over to her during the sequence?
Yes. But what's funny is...
What do you mean by go over there?
I will show you.
Like go right up to her?
I don't know if the remaster looks like this. The way the light reflected off her eyes, I'm like, looks... It just struck me as like, that looks weird.
I accidentally hit F way too soon, and I didn't have a chance to, like, I saw that I was able to shine the flashlight on her, and she was disappearing. I didn't get a chance to...
Oh, I did that to her.
Complete that.
I blasted her right out of existence.
So that's what happened? Did you get an achievement or anything for that?
I don't think so. She needed to go, though. Sorry.
The darkness in the window.
Oh, yeah. You walk over, did anything happen? No, nothing happens. Boring.
Yeah, I didn't walk over to her there.
Yeah.
I walked... and then she appears in front of you again.
Yeah. In the back of my mind, I'm like, maybe you should go back to bed. Maybe you should come. It'll be some horrible thing. I was like, I'm just going to get this done. At this point, I'm like, I need to get this done. I wanted to get the ending. And then after the fact, I was like, you could have spent an extra 2 minutes. But nothing happened, so I don't feel guilty anymore.
So I at this point, I don't know how you get hurt, but I was getting hurt by things. I was
Hey.
like, what's going on?
What the hell was
I don't know.
hurting you?
I have no idea.
So you
but
brought the... Oh, you didn't get rid of her either. Oh, no, you didn't.
Yep.
You shined the light on the clicker and made the clicker come into existence first. I blasted her ass. It's like, no, sorry, you gotta go. You gotta go, lady. It's time. And nothing significant happens when you blast her.
Gotcha.
First. There's Tom. The diver.
The diver. So,
the most interesting part about this, it had me ask 20 million questions afterward.
So don't worry about him right now.
Oh, this is the Mr. Scratch thing.
Oh, he's so good.
So the only way we know the real Alan's the one with the eye bandage, right? Or is it?
No, it's interesting that the one who's grinning widely is Mr. Scratch.
Yes.
He's the one with the bandage, and Alan Wake is the one without it.
Mr. Scratch is the one
confusing.
with the shit-eating grin.
Wasn't a dream.
Everything's fine.
Turn the lights on. Turn the lights on.
No, see, look, Band-Aid.
I think they both have a Band-Aid then.
They both have the Band-Aid, just the shit-eating
right.
grin one is Mr. Scratch.
No,
well, hang on to see that again.
Don't mind him. He's Mr. Scratch. Your friends will meet him when you're gone.
See, no Band-Aid. So that's the real Alan because he's got the Band-Aid.
Why is he smiling?
Use the clicker.
You don't know.
I love this sequence.
What's funny is I
the
shined my
clicker
light
is
on
him
everything.
writing. I shined it on everything.
Yeah, me too.
I did not first, but then I came back to make sure I didn't miss anything.
I don't know if you guys noticed it. You notice how there's like a circle and it gets smaller?
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's
been happening the whole game.
Damage it's taking.
No, I know. I will say I am embarrassed to admit how long it took me to realize that visual cue.
If you're not, if you're paying attention to their movements and you're just putting the flashlight in the general direction, you won't be focused on the circle. But I think earlier on, one of the larger enemies, I realized that the smallness of the circle was their health bar, and that mattered for the larger enemies because the bastards wouldn't go away.
Yeah, no, it took me. In fact, I don't even think I realized it in my whole playthrough. I think it was on the remaster that I noticed it.
Oh wow.
Yeah. Anyway.
I'm leaving you, Alan.
So
I met someone. I'm in love with someone else.
So there's like that dialogue and some of these things that are kind of running through Alan's head, but you hear the typewriter going. I guess the question there is, presumably that really happened, right? Like that was some of the regret that kind of opened the door for the dark presence to.
Oh no, this is all the dark presence messing with his head.
Yeah.
Nothing that happens in here is real.
Oh, okay.
So this is all the dark presence trying to poison Alan's mind as a last-ditch attempt to drive him away. Because all of this that he's doing is to save her.
The dark place has infinite potential, but it also has the dark presence. He's creating reality, in essence, by focusing on words. It's so cool. Bridge. And the bridge exists.
Oh, that takes a long time.
What we're talking about.
Then I spawn everything else. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, we're talking about chapter 6. Very important billboard.
Billboard.
Mine did not say that. That's hilarious.
Let me go over to the description.
Energizer Advanced Lithium.
Oh.
It's not that way in the remaster. The whatever it is, the re-release. Because they dropped all the Energizer branding for sure.
I don't remember seeing that either, though.
How about this one?
It's the Duracell one.
Lithium. Verizon.
Yes, Verizon was there. Yes.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I feel like I would have remembered it if I saw it. But maybe I just didn't look. So you
that was some interesting Thomas Zane stuff. This is what this is a recollection of him killing her.
Yes. Now, yes, because now now we're in the Dark Presence. Also, Thomas Zane himself mentions that he does this prior, and now this is just a fairly visceral reenactment.
He cut her heart out. That's how you have a hole to stick the clicker into.
No. I know. What? I guess what I was. That voice sounded like Alice's voice.
No, that was that was
Barbara Jagger.
Yes.
Because it almost sounded identical to when, Alan's running after, running back to the.
Yeah. Well, in that sequence, it's Barbara. This would lead credence to your eternal recurrence theory.
Maybe
perhaps.
they're actually the same people.
Well, again, the Odin and Thor basically say that, right? They call him Tom. And Alan. Well, but Alan even remarks, he's like, in that chapter, he's like, I was confident those guys were right. Like, they had the goods. They may seem crazy, but they know what's up. Like, Alan specifically says that at one point.
Basically saying, I'm going to listen to these crazy old men and go over to their farmhouse and check out what their swill's like.
Well, I mean, it's interesting that it's another set of creatives that also have power to change reality, in essence.
They did, and then
I'm gonna look for it. It's when you're.
The darkness got them?
Yeah.
When?
No.
This might be it here.
No way.
Odin and Thor? No, they're fine.
They're good, man. Don't worry about them.
No. But the darkness got to them a little bit and made them go crazy.
No. They got old.
They were touched by the darkness, is what he's saying.
Yeah.
When you're having that monologue, they do mention about how like the hag took things from them.
Correct. Yeah, they fought the darkness, just like Alan's been fighting the darkness, just like Cynthia Weaver's been fighting the darkness. Nobody who's fighting the darkness is normal.
They're touched.
Yeah, I'm not gonna find it, but there's a statement where he basically says like, I've learned to. I'm sure that those guys knew what they were talking about. So, in my mind, that gives credence to them calling him Tom. Like, it's almost like they're the same.
Well, Tom and Alan are close enough that if you are two old, dementia-ridden, coked-out rock stars, that you will conflate one with the other. That was my interpretation.
They certainly rhyme.
Oh, here it is. Here it is, right here.
Rex, far now. I wasn't worried about trusting the ramblings of two burned-out geriatric Rex. They had the goods.
Right, so that's basically him saying, "Hey, listen to what Odin and Thor say," because
it's the Combine. Yeah,
they know what they're talking about.
I feel like this was more of a broad strokes than about anything specific.
Yeah. So then.
I could feel Alice's presence close by.
Just the confrontation with the dark presence.
To do now. I knew how to write the ending to.
You forgot the part where he fisted her.
Clicker punch. There it is. Bam.
There was an awkwardly long pause there. Before he flicks the switch.
Someone else to dream me.
Very, very, very Hollywood.
2, 3, 4. 4-second hug is not a short hug.
It's a dramatic pause for effect.
The biggest quote in that is that we have someone else that will set us free. Which is Nightingale, unfortunately for him.
Well, Nightingale will be the next puppet.
Yeah.
Oh,
There's always somebody else that can influence.
Was that the implication?
Yes.
That was Nightingale?
Yes.
I missed that.
When we watch the ending, I'll point at stuff.
Okay.
Also, what happens is that this whole sequence, they just rapid fire a whole bunch of stuff at you. And so trying to parse each individual piece sort of takes a minute.
I had to watch it 3 times to understand it myself.
See, I only watched it once, so I came in ill prepared for this discussion.
We didn't think that this freaking like you didn't think they would just machine gun you all this stuff.
Right. So he came up with an ending.
Cause and effect. There's guilt and there's atonement. But the scales always need to balance. Everything has a price.
Equivalent exchange, FMA.
That's where things have gone wrong.
Midnight.
There's
Time goes back.
through the night back into the light.
So this implies that he wrote the ending.
Alice?
He's
at the end.
Yes.
The ending did not exist until then.
So that was him writing, him going back in time, right?
Yeah. Oh, what I interpret this as, okay, now they're like the story's finished, and now we are going to get to the end of the story, which is this was not 7 days and nights. I counted, but I'm thinking this is just the passage of time, more abstractly.
Interesting. So, but basically, the ending he wrote is when he dives in, he trades with Alice, right, and she comes out. That's the equivalent exchange, quote unquote, right?
11 days.
Yeah.
He has to stay. She gets to go.
Exactly. Yeah.
And now that he is down in the cabin that sucks everything down to the bottom of the lake, he's not dead, right?
No, neither was she.
Yeah. Now there's the DLC, which may give us a little bit more context, but the American Nightmare that Pete played through shows you some of the stuff that he's been up to in the meantime. It also gives you some perspective on what happens to Alice and Barry.
That takes place like 2 years later.
When you say what he has been up to, you mean Alan the writer and the bottom
Within the Darkness.
Cauldron.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then there's whatever the hell's going on in Alan Wake 2, which Alan Wake is a part of.
Which takes place 10 years later.
Yeah.
I think that canonically, for the year that it released in, that's the year that the game takes place in. Same thing with Alan Wake.
I guess it wasn't here. I remembered a discussion somewhere where the Dark Presence is talking to Alan. It must have been at the end of chapter 4. Where basically the way that they started to get him to write was, the regret associated with, Alice's supposed death and, his, whatever role he felt he had. Right. I guess that was, as
you can bring her back.
As I looked back on the entire story, not so much the ending, but just kind of the story. That was one of like the main things I remember like pulling from it that they did is kind of just this idea of like, hey, the way that darkness can quote unquote get a hold of any of us, right, is through that kind of like regret and like it's almost like it's a choice, right, to like open yourself up to that sort of thing, right? I guess I liked how they portrayed that. That was like one of the things like when I thought back on the story, it's kind of like, I don't know, insightful, I guess is the phrase I use.
Though darkness is always there, and really darkness is what caused everything to be kicked off from the very beginning. Because it certainly wasn't Alan's problem.
Right, but he even said right there, when he's writing back, light and darkness, they both have to exist. There has to be a balance. Right, he's saying, hey, like the order of nature is there is both light and darkness, and there has to be a balance.
And I thought he was saying that about bringing back Alice, not about light and darkness. He was saying that about, like, in order for Alice to live, there has to be an equal balance.
Well, I think that's the conclusion he came to based on the principle of there has to be a balance.
It's funny that you guys come to that because Mr. Scratch and him are the exact same duality.
Right.
The light and the darkness that have to balance each other.
Cause and effect. There's guilt and there's atonement. But the scales always need to balance. Everything has a price.
Right. So the way I interpret that is light and darkness have to balance. Guilt and atonement need to balance. Right. Like anything bad that happens in life, whether it's darkness or guilt, you can balance it out, but you can't make it go away. It has to be balanced. Right. That's kind of the observation they're making about life. So, again, Alan kind of like goes down this path, starts down this path, the writing path, writing under the influence of the dark presence, when it sucks him in through his regret. Right, like that's kind of like the willing entry point into the trap set by the darkness.
Alice was the darkness's leverage.
Yep.
But because of the regret.
Because he felt like he felt like he had to do something to fix it.
Yes.
Is that his regret, or is that a promise that he was given?
That was the manipulation.
That was the manipulation. Exactly.
The manipulation was, you are grieving. You are now open to this.
I killed her.
Right.
It's like the robber telling you can get your money back, but you just have to do something for me.
Right. It's ransom.
Ransom. That's the perfect word.
So, and then there's the ending. So, the only thing I really took away from the ending is that Alan was still writing
in the darkness.
In the darkness,
beneath, yeah.
But I didn't necessarily extract out whether the implication was he was now causing everything in Bright Falls to happen, both in the light and the darkness. Like he is now the mover, so to speak.
Yeah. The story at this point has now ended. So this is life after the story is concluded. So now the world is living with the ramifications of what he just wrote. If you'll notice that this is specifically the day of Deerfest, which was the next day. Yep. So
I think the things that he's writing down there are attempts to get himself out.
Yeah.
Less than what's happening up here, because
yeah, this is life's going on without him now.
Right, and the implication being no one really remembers him?
As in people are now like they're just moving on, living their own lives.
Gotcha.
So there is inheriting the lantern. So she is now the new Lady of the Light. Similar to Cynthia, she was touched by the darkness, and now she needs to ward against it. And there is Nightingale, who is now
Cynthia
going to be
Weaver.
Yes.
No.
Who is now the new puppet of the darkness. Yes, Barbara Jagger.
The Barbara Jagger, exactly.
Yes. Okay.
Looking good in the back.
Yeah. So right, so he is now the new writer, and Rose is taking on the mantle of
protector,
keeping the light. Right. That makes sense.
It's not a lake. It's an ocean.
Alan, wake up.
It's not a lake, it's an ocean.
To me, that means that it's just not this lake that's a darkness. It's a wider, like there's a bigger darkness out there.
Worth noting is that they still, in American Nightmare, they still refer it to as Cauldron Lake. So when I initially heard that, my immediate thought is that they changed the landmass to have it be an ocean, but it is
So you went along the literal.
But no, this is now Cauldron Lake is so deep.
It's a portal.
Yes.
To other things. It is not just this lake. It is a vast, dark plane of existence.
But I think that's just observing that there's always darkness Right. Is it more than just observing that there's always darkness, but given the principle that it just said that everything has to balance, there should therefore be this ocean of light.
Well,
Kingdom Hearts, the ocean of light.
This is also, he is granting power to the darkness by saying this. And some of this is, and the way that the wording is like when during this voiceover, like it's him and then someone else talking. So it's saying that there is an influence.
The voice is touched by the darkness.
Touched by, yes. But keeping what you said in mind, he is granting power, which means in turn he's doing something that will give him power back. And so this is Alan now continuing his fight against the darkness using his writing. And so we leave this, and then there's a line in the credits, I believe, that says something along the lines of Alan will return, sort of like James Bond will return. So these two things combine together, saying he's now going to continue his fight.
Are you sure it said that? Where does it say that? I don't remember that. Oh, yes, right there. Journey through the night will continue. Okay.
So the parlay will continue onward past the end of this game, and perhaps that is being addressed in the DLC that we'll be playing, and to an extent that's being addressed in the American Nightmare, and at least in terms of Alan Wake finding there's a problem and then moving to solve it in a way that he can. And then whatever goes on in Alan Wake 2, I'm imagining is going to be him wrapped up in whatever manifestation of this has been going on for the past 10 years.
And whatever happened in Control that involves Alan Wake.
So up next is the DLC.
Yeah, next is the DLC. Using the well, we'll talk about that some other time. Yeah, next is the DLC, the writer and the signal.
Which one's first? Does it matter? Oh, I think they're numbered. They're numbered.
I think there is an order, but we'll be playing them both anyway, so whatever's clever.
Yeah, I just don't know if order matters when you're playing them, but I think they're numbered, so I'm gonna do one first.
There's a Old Gods of Asgard track in American Nightmare that is literally titled "Balance Slays the Demon."
Ooh.
Going back to the
yeah, your idea of balance.
What we were talking about, yeah. Like, right, if there's more darkness, that means there's more light.
So again, American Nightmare takes place 2 years later, and there is they're still alive, Aaron, and Barry's still alive. Just so
I watched the beginning of American Nightmares, and I saw that he was their agent, which we said
he's their agent.
Yeah, which I was.
They got a new single,
and he's passed out drunk on the bed. Yeah,
it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting if it goes on, if they do a little bit of like a Death Note type thing with like Nightingale and Alan. Right, kind of like the intellectual battle, not really played out in like.
I don't think the intellectual battle can happen with Nightingale.
Well, all I know about Alan Wake 2 is that there's Alan Wake going on doing the weird stuff, and then there is an FBI agent doing some sort of investigating.
Ah, interesting.
And those are the two main characters of Alan Wake 2.
Yeah, she's on the cover or splash screen or whatever.
And actually, hang on.
So Alan Wake 2 protagonists.
Maybe. I don't know. Alan Wake's looking pretty haggard in that. I'm assuming that character on the front is Alan.
Worth noting, look at the design of the FBI jacket she's wearing compared to the design of Nightingale's FBI jacket.
It's Nightingale's daughter. No.
Well.
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by
nobody
the
would want to be around him?
It's the same color of dark blue on yellow.
But that's the FBI.
Maybe it's just they haven't changed their jackets in 10 years. But I have not looked it up. Now this could also be the daughter of the partner who died. I don't know. Purely in the realm of speculation.
Interesting.
But I do know that there's sort of an A side, B side going on with that. That's all I know about Alan Wake 2.
Could she be the writing of Nightingale?
I don't know.
Lots of questions.
What's the jackets for the Federal Bureau of Control look like?
They all look like that.
FBC.
Yeah, I know.
I guess my last thought is, I will say, it's interesting how many games have like a light and darkness, or stories in general, right? Like light and darkness is such one of these like prevalent tropey type things. The only reason I'm saying that and it's jumping out at me is because I'm playing Kingdom Hearts with the kids right now, and that's another like light darkness. You know, I think with the same metaphor of, you know, kind of like the internal light and darkness, right? Like certainly I feel like the darkness here in some ways is talking about the darkness within our mind, so to speak, like, you know, that we can get trapped up in, and, you know,
it's one of those,
the darkness within
the heart of darkness. It's one of those,
the heart of darkness.
The heart of darkness. It's one of those. It's one of those eternal storylines. You know, it's one of those archetypal stories. Good, evil, darkness, light. How many stories aren't based around that, like, epic story?
Good, bad. I'm the guy with the gun.
I'm the guy with the gun.
I mean, that's the whole Thanos, why he snapped the universe in half, to make it perfectly balanced.
Well,
yeah.
Sometimes you gotta break half a creation to save the other half.
Yep.
Though, sometimes you're just a genocidal maniac when you do that.
Sometimes. Yeah, you know.
What happens when the universe fills back up again? Do you just keep snapping? Thanos, this is not a long-term solution.
Yeah, that's the problem for Thanos. He didn't think anything through.
Thinking so much on the short term.
I gotta get all those stones so that I can snap half of everybody out of existence. Is not a long-term solution.
No. They're just gonna come back.
Well, I mean, he probably saw that he did it so many times by killing half the population of all those planets. You know?
To no avail.
Well, I mean, it worked. All of a sudden, where there was famine, there was abundance because half of the people didn't need to eat anymore. Think of it that way. But it's horrible.
You're just going to repopulate. You're not dealing with the fundamental structural issues.
Stop population from virtualize everybody.
Got to build a Death Star.
Oh, well, that's yes. You do have to build a Death Star.
It's an effing ship.
I was going to say
Son
that's
of a
why
bitch
the
now, and we're building it.
In space. Anyway, episode or part 3 or part 4 of this will be the 2 DLCs, and then we'll see where we're going after that. Got lots of good choices. Can't wait. Hopefully, Maria will be able to play the DLC.
She didn't touch the.
She didn't. She watched. Did she?
She watched the whole thing. No.
Oh, all right. She saw the ending though.
Well, she saw the whole thing.
All right.
Yeah, her and I talked a little bit about it. Life has been very busy.
What was her quick five cents about the last 2 chapters? Like, did she like it? Did she not?
Yeah, I don't know that she picked up on the whole Nightingale thing. You know, some of that discussion that we had about like the darkness. That's some of what her and I talked about. So, I'd say that was some of what I carried that into our conversation based on that discussion I had with her. So.
Right. The darkness is all around us and inside of us.
And inside of other unanswered. I mean, thematically, it won't change it, but there are a lot of unanswered questions that it'll be interesting from like a world building perspective if the DLC starts to answer some of these questions, right? Like, I mean, as was stated earlier, the story is over from the perspective of, well, not what's on the screen, right? But the encapsulated Alan Wake 1 story is over.
But there's a lot
they've done what they're going to do, right? DLC is just going to be amplification in the story, right? DLC is just going to be amplification and world building.
Correct.
I expect. I hope we find out a little bit about the whole chicken and egg thing, because to me that's like the big mystery hanging over the whole thing is who wrote who.
I hate to be that guy, but I have a feeling this is an Alan Wake 2 thing. I have a feeling this is something that they kept people waiting for 10 years for. Given that American Nightmare came after this DLC by several years, I think so.
The interesting thing about a decade is how much of it is true to the original intent, or was there ever an original intent, or was it just intentionally? Like, when Sam Lake wrote it, did he have an ending
Alan Wake
in mind?
Staying there?
Or did he intentionally leave it open-ended and he figured it out 10 years later?
Don't know. Also, did he intend Alan Wake to be trapped there for 10 years, since he made it take place in the year that the game was released for both of the games? Who knows?
I do find it funny that we have half of us thinking that it's all, Alan's story, and then half of us thinking that it was Zane's story.
I'm not saying necessarily that it was Zane's story. I'm not going to take that standpoint. I'm going to take the standpoint of anybody who could create things, and Thomas Zane was a legitimate existing force that created some things. Including, potentially, Alan Wake. Because he wrote a page that indicates that Alan Wake existed.
And that he was a character he wrote.
Or that he was a person that had this thing happen. That doesn't mean that he's a character. So, character denotes false, not an existing person. Right? Characters are fiction.
I would... Sure.
What if fiction is real?
Well, that's one...
If fiction is real, and if it's real... if it's not real fiction, but if it's a reality that you're writing, if you're writing the course of reality, then he didn't necessarily make Alan exist. He just said that there is a person named Alan that exists, and this is true.
We'll see what the DLC does.
We will.
What were your stats at?
Oh yeah, you gotta post your stat screen.
I will do that
another time
now because I didn't snap it.
Did you murder as many birds as I did?
Well, that's hard to believe.
Probably not. I was 600 maybe or something.
Oh, wow! I deforest a forest to kill those birds. Like I killed like 1,000, like 100.
Interesting.
Be remiss of me not to bring this up if we're talking about darkness.
Eternal darkness.
Eternal darkness.
Ugh.
So, timing.
That the darkness. What?
Sorry.
Oh, I can stop. Yes. Hold on. And that's it for now. Until next time. Stopping the recording.